I'm here today with the legendary Donald Tardy of Obituary to talk about their upcoming new record, Dying of Everything, out January 13th on Relapse Records. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule and you guys just came off of a big tour. And that's kind of where I want to start before we talk about the record. How was the tour for you guys?
It was amazing. You know, we're good friends with Amon Amarth. We toured with them a little over 10 years ago in Europe, and we had a blast with them then, and have been friends ever since. And they could not be any nicer guys. They're just really good people, and a hell of a band. And then there's Carcass, one of my favorite bands in the world. So it was a dream. It was a dream tour for myself, and 29 dates across the United States and up into Canada, and it just was a really successful tour.
I saw you guys, speaking of Canada, I saw you guys in Toronto. It seemed like everybody was having a great time. The fans were having a great time. You guys look like you're having a great time. With the album now coming out in early January, are you guys getting ready to hit the road right after again, maybe as a headlining tour?
Well, we're home for 3 weeks, and then we head to Europe. And the first Europe run is going to be supporting Trivium and Heaven Shall Burn. And this was just an offer that approached us, and we realized that with the new album, we will always have time to do a headlining tour or to put a full death metal package together. So this was one of those decisions, a very deliberate decision to head out on the road with Trivium and Heaven Shall Burn, because it is a bit of a difference in fan base. And with the new album, we want to be in front of new eyes. We know a lot of those fans are heavy metal fans, but they probably have never gotten a real dose of Florida death metal, and especially with Obituary. So looking forward to it, looking for the challenge, and really, really excited about this album finally getting released.
Now, so getting into the album, taking your cue, when you look at the whole record, everything that went into making it, is there anything that stands out in your mind about the process of putting this record together?
I mean, it's just the reality that after 30 years together and 11 attempts in the studio recording albums, it's the main thing that stands out is just, the process. We own close to 120 songs now, so it would be very easy to repeat yourself, or to lose focus, or to not come up with new, fresh ideas. And instead, man, I don't know how we're doing it, but we're still having a blast with the albums, with the writing process. And then and now I think we've just figured out finally how to enjoy the studio and how to effectively record some really good sounding albums on our own. And the chemistry we have right now with the band and with our engineer Joe Sincata up in New York City in Full Force Studios. He just, he's our live engineer for the past 15 years, so he knows us through and through. And he's bringing that to the studio, and really capturing what this band is. And we are a live band. If anyone's seen us before live, they always say, how are you guys so tight live, and how is it that you can be that heavy? And Joe's a big part of that. And now we have Joe doing the albums with us as well, and I could not be more proud of the production of this album.
You talked about the longevity of the band, 11 records. You guys been together for a very long time. You said that's important not to get stale and always to look at doing something new. But the other part that's really important in equation is having the motivation to continue to push forward through all the adversities that you guys have faced. Where do you guys find that motivation?
I don't know. I think it's that we've been doing it since such a young age. Like before we even started touring, we were a band as just children, Trevor and myself and my brother. And, we were those kids that were so determined at 14 and 15 years old to play shows and to make up our own songs and stuff, that we just went for it. We were writing songs at a super young age. Any opportunity we had to play some kind of party or pool party or keg party, we were always a part of it. And it seemed like it was in our blood. And it's really, me personally, it's really the only thing I do well is to be in a band and to be a drummer and to run a successful band. So the passion's always been there, and we're still healthy. We're still having a good time, and we're still kicking out some killer songs. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where you've done it 2/3 of your life, and you do it well, and it's really all you know.
You mentioned about the creative process behind the band. Have you seen an evolution in that process, considering the longevity that you guys had, and obviously understanding what worked better and what works worse in terms of the chemistry that you guys have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just learning. You know, it's a learning process every time you step into the studio to write a song, write an album, record that album, and you always learn, and you hope that you always get better. And I think with this band, that's exactly what happens. Is we learn each time. We become better with individually with our instruments, but mainly as a whole, as a band, we're just writing good basic death metal songs. That is what Obituary is. We are not trying to be the most technical band in the world. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We know what Obituary fans want. It's what we want, which are those mid-tempo heavy grooves and solid confident playing. And that's what we try to deliver. And you know, I always think that when I go to write a song, if I just write a song that I love, I think my fans are going to love it. And we don't try too hard, and for God's sakes, we try to have a good time, because life is short. And that's really what I've learned over these years, is just do what we do what you do well, and have a good time.
I would say that two of the key elements of Obituary, maybe the cornerstones, if you will, is the guitar sound and the vocals. Going into the guitar sound first, what do you see as being the DNA of that sound that has become such a huge part of what the overall Obituary sound feels and comes across?
Well, that's a good question, and it's really kind of funny, because we have never hidden it. It's not a secret that we try to hide. Trevor has used the same exact gear and setup from the beginning, since he found his sound, and this is, you know, before Slowly We Rot. And he's very openly, honestly, and clearly explained to the world what he has. He plays a Fender Stratocaster. He plays a JCM 800 Marshall 2203 head. He runs that through a Proco Rat pedal, and that's it. There's no rack system. There's no, you know, there's no whistles and gadgets. There's nothing special about it. It's just that he found his sound. He likes it. It is our sound. It's that fat sound that he gets, along with back when Alan was still in the band. Alan used that Ibanez with the active pickup, which had a much crisper, more electric guitar sounding sound. So you blend those two, and it worked well. And Ken, now that Ken's been in the band for 10 years, he's got that same vibe as Alan. He's got that active pickup guitar, his ESPs, and those two guitars match beautifully. When you got Trevor's really thick, dark sound, and then you get a little bit more crispy sound guitar from the lead guitar player, it just works well. And again, we've never hidden it. We've actually talked about it openly and honestly from the very beginning. There's so many guitar players that I've seen that will literally hide their stuff and hide what they do and try to patent it, or turn it backwards on stage, cover it from the backside so other band members can't see it. And we're not those dudes, man. We trust our abilities with our instruments, and we trust that, you know, as a band, we're a pretty good band right now when it comes to writing songs, and the live show is really where we stand out.
Like I said, the sound is one of those cornerstones of Obituary. I mean, the moment you hear that guitar sound, you know what band you're listening to. The other element being the vocals. Does the way the vocals are so specific. They have such a unique delivery, tone, like whatever you want to call it. There's so much what Obituary has been all about. When you're making songs, when you're creating songs, do you ever think about that delivery in terms of how that's going to impact the overall track?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Again, it goes back to just being comfortable in our own skin. We're happy with the the style we created. We're happy with the tone that we have on guitars. My brother's voice is just, it is one of a kind. You know it immediately the minute that you listen to Obituary. You'll know it right away when you hear John Tardy's voice, and that's just the way it is. And he's getting more powerful the older he gets, which is pretty amazing. This album is a testament to that. You know, he's got range on this album that came so naturally because I obviously helped him record it. You know, we record our own albums, and just watching the process of him writing the songs, writing the lyrics, but then also just using his voice the way he does, and really just bringing just absolute brutality to these songs. You know, the fast songs, he can get in there and he's got range, and then the slow songs, he's got that guttural that's so deep and brutal when he wants it, and it's just fantastic. And to be doing it at the age that we all are right now, we're honing in our skills, and we're still pretty good at what we're doing.
We've talked about the vocals, we talked about the guitars. I want to ask you about the drums. When it comes to your drum sound and when it comes to the execution of the drums within the tracks, where do you need that sound to be within the mix? Where do you want your drums to be in order for you for that Obituary sound?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, it's like, again, it goes back to the most comfortable I am is on stage and live in front of people. It's what I do well. I am not the most technical drummer. I'm not the fastest drummer, nor have I ever claimed to or want to be, but I am solid. Solid and confidence goes a long way when it comes to performance. So it's always been a live thing for me. And so now what I try to do, like for instance, with this new album is I just asked Joe when we handed off the files, because we record it here in Florida and then we send it to Joe at Full Force Studio up there in New York. And I just asked him, I said, look, man, I love my snare drum. I play a solid drum set. Let's not try and do too much. Let's do what we do well. Keep that snare drum live. It's cracking. I love the sound of it. My Yamaha drums are just, there's nothing quite like them. And that was my one request to Joe was, let's please make this as live of an album as we can. So many bands we know hand it off to a producer that immediately sound replaces everything, immediately goes to his own library of sounds that he's confident with, if that makes sense, you know, to anybody listening or reading this. And we didn't do that. We made it a point to say, look, man, we played the instruments well. I played solid. I love the performance I have on this. And I just asked Joe to keep it live sounding as much as he possibly can, along with using his magic to get that fat production that he gets. And there you have it. You know, there's not much to it. I think simple is better than too much technology. And we always say, keep it simple, stupid.
Is this a case of less is more?
It is, because, you know, again, he could have straight up took everything and just sound replaced the entire drum kit and found his favorite library of snare drums and bass drums and toms and stuff. But he understood what I was wanting and asking for, and that's what we did. We executed it. So, you know, we got the best sounding record we can for where we record it, which is literally at my brother's house. So it is not the most proper studio, but we're getting really good sounds out of that studio now. It's been 5 or 6 albums that we've done there. And then we trust Joe and we hand off the files, and we know that he's going to make it a killer sounding death metal album.
Do you have an album, when you look back at what you've done with Obituary, where the drumming is the most difficult or the one that you felt more challenging with?
Only from age. I look back at the first 2 albums, and you know, a lot of musicians, I'm guessing, have the same issue, which is right when you're done with that song and you listen back to it, you just say to yourself, God, if I had just one more attempt, man. And a lot of times that was because of the studio. You know, we were at Moore Sound Studio. You're paying by the hour. You know, you have the whole studio staring at you. You see the red light blinking, and you're under the gun, and the pressure's there. And pressure is a terrible thing for musicians. So, you know, the Cause of Death album is the perfect example where I know it's so many fans' favorite Obituary album. The songwriting's amazing, but when I listen back to it, my performance, some of the drum fills, some of the stuff that I remember practicing and hoping I remembered in the studio, it didn't quite come across. And it's just one of those albums where you're just kind of like, God, man, if I had one more shot at Body Bag or at Chopped in Half, I know what I could have done. But it is what it is, man. That's a learning, again, that's the learning process. That's the 19-year-old kid in me that knew I could have done a better job. But now at the age of 53, the new album, I'm super happy with every millisecond of it, every cymbal punch, every tasty little fill. They're not, doesn't have to be super long, crazy fills for them to be solid and killer. And I'm really proud of the new album.
Well, you could always go back on an anniversary edition and re-record the whole record, and that would
Yeah.
get that monkey off of your back.
Yeah, and we did that. We did that with the live albums when we did the live streams, because during the pandemic, a lot of people know, we did a live stream where we recorded and we filmed the entire Slowly Rot album and Cause of Death the next weekend. And again, Joe Sincata came down from New York because we had a studio that was $1 million studio and the full Pro Tools rig there. And he was just excited to come down and be a part of it because it was a live stream, and he's our guy. And he was stuck at home as well. He knew that Florida was offering to have him come down and be a part of this. And the recording came out so killer that we were looking back at it going, man, we have both albums right now. We have both albums multi-tracked on state-of-the-art Pro Tools rig. Let's mix it. And so we had him go back up and mix the album. And when he was done with it, we listened to it and we were like, man, this is killer. Like, there is no reason why these can't be albums. And so they are now. We put them out as live albums, and the fan reactions have been fantastic. And it's just kind of a cool thing because it was just a live stream, which was a strange feeling when you're performing live and there were thousands of people around the world watching from their bedrooms and their living rooms. But when you would finish a song, there'd be no clapping, there'd be no one cheering. So it was so strange.
No crowd surfing.
Yeah, it was really weird, but it ended up turning into two great products. Both those two live albums, they sound fantastic, and it's live. So if you hear my brother sing maybe a wrong line, or you hear me drop a drumstick, or maybe a guitar string breaks, it was live, and we kept all that as part of it. So again, it adds to the nostalgia of a live album, and I think the fans understand that and they appreciate that.
A lot of death metal drummers look up to the band, look up to you. When you look at the drum scene right now in terms of death metal, is there anybody out there, maybe a young cat that you're like, wow, this guy is going to go places? Is there somebody out there that fits that mold?
Man, I'm such an old school dude, and I don't want it to be a typical and boring answer, but I am a student of old school. But there are so many new bands that are just awesome musicians, killer drummers, ridiculous. And it's usually the bands that we end up meeting when we're on the road. Power Slave, Chris, the drummer for Power Slave, Power Trip. I was blown away when I heard it. It was like, it's not that new, but it is new compared to obviously Obituary. But when I discovered Power Trip and I heard his drumming, it was so old school feeling. And it's really cool to now see literally even newer bands than Power Trip that are kind of feeling their vibe, because fans that have read Power Trip interviews, Obituary was a big influence, and Riley was the first person to say that his vocals was inspired by my brother, and then just to listen to the drumming on those albums is killer. And now there's a new wave of these new metal bands, but they have that old school vibe. You have 200 Stab Wounds. They've got that vibe where they're not in the footsteps of Lamb of God or Psychroptic and being super technical. They're going back to the old school. They sound more like Corner or something than they do new metal. And you know, it's just, again, it goes back to that. It's usually running in the bands that we bring on the road with us or that we meet on the road. And maybe because that's, again, goes back to when I'm home, I'm usually listening to, if it's not Ronnie James Dio, it's some Leonard Skynyrd or, you know, some old Alice in Chains or something. Cause you know, I'm a fan of music, but I'm also an old dude, and I don't dive too much into crazy metal music when I'm at home.
So with this record at our doorstep, and with that European tour, you guys played a couple of songs on this run with the Monomarth. How much are you guys going to include on the set list? And has it been a difficult decision to make, considering the volume and quality that this record offers?
Yeah, you know, we are definitely going to incorporate some new songs because it is a killer album. We want people to hear it. We want people to get excited about it. But your point is a really good point, that it is a challenge to put a set list together, especially when you're a support band, when you're only going to have 30 or 40 minutes on stage. Again, we have 11 albums. You can't even play 11 songs in that time. So even to pick one song off each album, you wouldn't be able to do it. So, you know, it's one of those decisions you got to make with what songs are we going to pick? Well, you ask yourself, what fans are we in front of? And Amon Amarth was the perfect example, that we knew those were not necessarily Florida death metal fans. They're heavy metal fans, but we knew we couldn't bring super old school death metal music to them. So we picked some of the catchier songs, some of the meat and potatoes, and then of course we were playing The Wrong Time off the new album every night. And I was blown away by the fan reaction, the crowd reaction, and the crowd awareness. Like, you can tell that single got out there and people were listening to it and apparently enjoying it because they knew it. And that was a fantastic feeling.
Well, it's hooky and catchy as hell. I mean, like, it's you listen to that chorus and it's impossible to get it out of your brain. And
Yeah.
By the way, that's something that I always have a beef with you guys. Every time I see you guys live, I'm always like, oh, they didn't play this song or they didn't play that song. And then you look back and you realize, man, it's kind of hard to play every single song that everybody's expecting you guys to play.
It is hard, even when we're doing headline tours and you're playing 17 songs a night. It's still tough when you have over 100 songs and over 100 good songs. That's the thing, is we're not afraid to go and grab deep in our pockets and grab something off, off of Slowly Rot or off the Incomplete. But you're never going to please everybody, and that's what we've learned at a very long time ago. Because again, spanning 30-year career, it was 20 years ago that people are still yelling, "You didn't play this, you didn't play that," and it's just, what are you going to do besides just put together the most solid set list you can and go for it and play it well, and hopefully you please the masses. You won't please everybody, but hopefully everyone enjoyed the set that you selected.
I have one more question for you, but before I ask you that question, let me just tell you, at the Toronto show, I don't know how the other shows went, but at the Toronto show, I thought your set, the songs that you guys chose, hit the nail on the head. And if you don't mind me saying, nobody's hearing this conversation, better set than Carcass.
Yeah. Hey, Obituary's been around a long time, and we've said it even at a younger age of our career, that we're a live band. We've always been a live band. I don't know if that's because we've been jamming with each other since we were 12 years old, but all those punches and pauses and dropping into the next riff, we're it's kind of an unspoken language between myself, my brother, and Trevor, and Ken and Terry pick up on that now, and we're very solid. So the song selection, thank you. I agree. I think we picked a great set list, but it's also the performance, man. This band is extremely tight, and we're very solid live, and we're not afraid to play in front of or behind anybody on this planet. And that's not being cocky, that's just being confident. And Obituary songs, are that mid-tempo, fat, groovy, solid sound, and it's really comes across well live.
So my last question for you is, considering that you guys are the godfathers of the Florida death metal, and you guys have had this incredible longevity, when you look at the genre of death metal, where have you seen that genre go from when you guys started to where it is now?
It's pretty amazing how relevant death metal is right now, and heavy metal, extreme metal. It's as big as ever. Like that, the Amon Amarth tour, it shows that those guys are putting a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of execution into an amazing show. And hats off to them. It's great, and we were super privileged to be a part of it. And it just shows how many heavy metal fans are coming out. I mean, there was thousands of people a night. There was no more. There was 280 people, and it was a kind of a good show. I mean, these venues were packed, and heavy metal is very relevant, and death metal is very relevant right now. And the fans, the cool thing about it is the fans are so knowledgeable. They know their music, they love their bands, they know their riffs, they know the songs, and they get it. And I don't know about other genres of music. I can't speak for hip hop. I can't speak for new modern country music, which I can't stand either one of those compared to the old school. Like there was nothing better than, old rap music and old country music. But now it just seems, when I hear people driving by in their cars and what I hear as hip hop music nowadays and modern country, it couldn't be more plastic and fake and just crap. But metal is still relevant, and these bands and these musicians are still writing their asses off, and they're writing good songs. And I think the fans, they know it and they appreciate that. And it is a big metal family, this community of heavy metal. And we're very proud to be some of the older dudes that are still holding it down and showing some of these new bands how to really bring it. And our live show, again, I've said it, our live show can teach a lot of new bands some tricks, which is less is more sometimes. And it doesn't have to be 1,000 miles an hour and 55 different changes in one song to make it a heavy song. Sometimes just a few riffs are just as heavy.
Or I was going to say, or 10,000 laptops, but that's a different story for a different
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you guys on the headlining tour, or any tour for that matter. Every time you guys come to Toronto, I've never missed you guys. I always walk away asking, why didn't they play this song? But I totally get it. Why? It's just it's just the fan in me that always has to complain. But
Yeah.
thank you for the show that you guys did with Amon Amarth in Toronto. That sold out show is outstanding. Congratulations on the record. Best of luck with the release. And once again, I hope to see you guys back in Toronto very soon.
Right on, man. And we are super excited about this new album. The pandemic kept us handcuffed for a while. We've been sitting on this album for 2 years now, and it's time to really get out there and be busy. And that's what Obituary is going to do. So Toronto will definitely see us again on a headlining US tour and Canada tour. And we're looking forward for the fans to finally get this album in their hands. So I appreciate that.
No, thank you very much. All the best. Enjoy the holidays.
Okay, man. Cheers.
Take care.